Welcome everybody back to Latino Free Minds. I'm Daniel. I'm here with the co-host Danny. Hope everyone's been doing well. Hope everyone had a good Christmas, a Merry Christmas, and a good New Year. Hopefully everybody stayed safe. We're kicking off this year, pretty strong. We're gonna make sure that we keep doing this, and hopefully you guys keep tuning in. We still got a lot of people tuning in to our other episodes, so we thank you for that. And if you've just started following the show, and to the people that have given us feedback, thank you as well. It means a lot, and we're doing our best to like we have always said from the beginning, is to learn, and hopefully you guys are learning to have the conversations yourself. But other than that, how you been, Danny?
Been good. Everybody, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. So can't believe we're in 2023. As a kid, thinking about 2023 really didn't happen. So it's kind of weird being in 2023 now.
Yeah,
But glad that we're here.
for sure. So if you've been following along, you've been listening to our discussions about manipulation and how it affects pretty much everybody that's in the system, but and Latinos as well. But this time around, we wanted to talk about a specific topic. We wanted to talk about the border and how it affects Latinos.
Yeah. One of the things that we're constantly talking about here is thinking for ourselves, and we have to open up that conversation to really thinking about what's going on in the border, but not what we hear from the news and politicians, but what is really going on in the border. Because in past episodes, we've talked about, politicians using media, social media, news networks to manipulate us in our thoughts, pulling out our heartstrings.
Mm-hmm.
So, when we see kids at the border, families at the border, news anchors have been caught taking specific photos, like photo ops, not necessarily, true actions that are happening in that moment, but like just photo ops and, trying to create a story out of it. And what they're trying to do is pull out our heartstrings and, make us feel guilt as Latinos, and if you're an American, a Caucasian or any other type of minority, they're trying to pull at your heartstrings too. And I think in this environment right now in 2023 and in the past, I don't know, 15, 20 years, the issue with the border is completely different from what it used to be back when our parents were coming over to the United States looking for an opportunity to work and possibly move their families over here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and kind of to what you just said is they use it as an opportunity for like a photo op to manipulate, right? To use it to their advantage, not because they care, but because they know if I post this picture of me or of this situation that looks sad or doesn't look good, it's gonna make it seem as though I'm caring and I'm doing something about it. But at the end of the day, it's just for their self-interest. And like Danny said, it's been years that we've had the issue with the border. And the border, with all these years of politicians promising to fix the issues at the border and all that, it just seems to get worse every year. So that by itself should show you that what, this issue at the border, this issue with immigration hasn't been fixed, and it just keeps getting worse. So what are these politicians actually doing when they're talking about immigration and promising all these things? But again, the situation keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
Well, you and I heard a debate with Gavin Newsom when he was running for governor, and he was bragging about how much money he was spending in education and the border and all kinds of different things. And that sounds really good. and people may take that as him caring and doing something about it. But what we have to look at is that if they're spending that much money, it's obviously not working. So they have to change something.
Mm-hmm.
We can't just accept, that they're spending a lot of money to show that they really care.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're doing has to be changed. The way that they're allocating that money, it has to change. It's not effective. They need to change it up in order to be effective. And as you were talking, I was thinking about, all this money that they're sending over to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And in allocating that money there, and if they really cared about, protecting our border, they would take care of those people that are coming up, because these are real people that are really suffering. There's people dying, of starvation, dehydration. They're separated from their parents. Kids are, they end up lost. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things going on. There's human trafficking going on. They're being used as mules to carry drugs and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And you just showed a graph a little bit earlier when you and I were discussing the border, is that there's a lot of unoccupied children coming up through the border, and that's not necessarily Mexican children, but it's from El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras. And as you can see at that graph right there, is this shows that the border problem that exists now, day and age, is completely different from when our parents were coming over. Because yes, young men, young women were coming over, but I would say that it didn't match up with this graph that you guys are seeing, this chart that you're seeing right here, because they were of working age.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying every single one was, but the majority was, and it was pretty much unheard of, for children to be crossing the border,
By
in
themselves.
the 60s, 70s, when our parents were coming over. They
Mm-hmm.
were looking for opportunities to come and work. And then once they found the opportunities and they were established, they would, bring over, the wife or the kids, or bring the wife over and start their family here. So we can't fall for that trap that the politicians are throwing out there and pulling at our heartstrings. And the real crime here is that they're playing with these real people that are coming up to the border and suffering.
Yeah, and that's something that I think a lot of Latinos can actually, relate to or understand. That, like, yeah, before you would see, the dad, the husband, whatever, would come up, get themselves established, and then they would look into bringing their family, or like you said, starting their family here. And and we all, as Latinos, like I said, we all know somebody in that situation, or someone who's that story pertains to them. And what we're seeing today, and looking at the graph, kind of like I was saying before, it's, you can see how it's, each year it's gotten worse and worse. And when it comes to the border, because you were talking about how it's kids, how it's people, the human trafficking aspect, and all that other stuff. Talking about the border does not mean that we don't care about the people that are there, or those people that are suffering, or the people that want to come here for a better life. We understand that, but we also understand that if we just let it happen, kind of as it is now, we're going to expose, most of those people that are coming up are going to be more exposed to those kind of dangers. Women getting killed, children getting killed, women getting raped, the human trafficking aspect. I believe I seen, like, I want to say a couple weeks ago, Project Veritas had done, one of their undercover things on unaccompanied minors, and how they're released to sponsors, right? And I believe they were kind of showing that you don't really even got to establish a relationship with the kid, or you just, or it's like a verbal, yeah, I'm the uncle, and there's no real
proof or
proof.
evidence that they're related or anything like that.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen that, you should go check out their Instagram account. That's where they posted it, and it's showing that there's different houses. I think they were focused on the Texas area that had like one house had like, I don't know, 10 sponsors, and they were all minors, and it was only like adult males living there. So it's just real weird stuff, but that's the kind of stuff that if we just allow this border issue to go on and then keep falling for these promises, because yeah, they use that imagery against us, or our pride against us, then that is what unfortunately is being allowed.
Yeah. And going back to, our parents coming here, and with that American dream and wanting to build a family here for better opportunities for us. So I was first generation born here, and I have some family members that it's a vice for them. It's really difficult because, in one hand, they're grateful that our parents or grandparents came here, and we were born here or grew up here, right? And we have the opportunities that we have. And on the other hand, they see what's going on, and they can't accept that a border wall is good, because they don't want to deny anybody that opportunity to come over the way that their parents or grandparents did, so that they could have a better life.
It's like that
But
guilt, right? That guilt
well,
kind of feeling.
exactly, and that vice is the guilt,
Mm-hmm.
because you're torn. In one hand, you see the use of the border wall, that control, because in order for a country to be stable, it has to be protected. It has to have a strong border.
Mm-hmm.
I think anybody would agree, any country would agree. Ukraine would agree right now, because they're going through that war
Mm-hmm.
with Russia, and a lot of the politicians are backing Ukraine. So everybody would agree that you have to have a strong border, and that guilt gets in the way of making that decision. And the way that I had to explain it to a family member is that, and this is my belief, is that in today's border problems, crisis, issues, whatever you want to call it, is different from our parents and grandparents, because, when they came here, they were looking for opportunities to work. And like I said, it was usually the males or, the female adults that were coming to look for work. So once they were here, established themselves, started, paying attorneys and whatnot for immigration, start, getting the paperwork ready, for whenever amnesty came up, or, a work permit, or whatever the case may be. So I remember when my parents were going through that, and, they were going to San Francisco, the court hearings, and going through that entire process to get, their visa.
Mm-hmm.
So it's completely different from the issues that we're having now at the border. And you can't let that guilt get in the way. What you should be looking at is why it's happening. Why is it that so many people are coming up to the border and sending their children
Alone.
unaccompanied?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's because, and if you're going back because of poverty and things of that nature from where they're from, we got to hold those countries accountable too. And if that is the case, then what the parents need to do is go through the proper channels and start that process to, whether it's seeking asylum or whatever the case may be, starting that process to come over and bring their family over. Because guess what? When they do that, they get vetted. If they're a criminal, obviously, if my parents were criminals, they wouldn't have gotten that visa.
Mm-hmm.
So when that vetting process happens, that's what allows them to come into this country legally.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. When you really think about it, there's nothing wrong with that. And like Danny was saying, is any country has to that wants to be a respected country, a sovereign country, has to defend or take care of its borders. And and so with oh man, I hate when that happens. I lost my train of thought. Damn it.
Well, check this out. Maybe it had something to do with this, but the cartels, everybody, if we ask anybody that
Mm-hmm.
we know and ask them, if the cartels are running certain borders, whether it's a state or a city or a territory in Mexico, they're going to say, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they're the ones that are actually running the states and the borders there, or trafficking or whatever the case is. So what makes you think that the cartels are not right there on the border, you know, trafficking people,
Mm-hmm.
drugs, money? Uh, there's so many things that they could be doing right there, and if that's not controlled, then what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
We're allowing crimes to happen on the border. We're allowing the cartel to do their business on the border. If we have a strong border, they can't run business as usual. And, that means that less people are being used as mules,
Kind of froze a
less
little.
human trafficking. I think everybody would be for that.
Looks like Danny's screen froze. We'll see if we'll get him back in right now.
Where did I get cut off at?
You back in here?
Yeah,
All
froze
right,
up.
now it froze. But what were you saying? You were talking about the cartels and how all that stuff going on. How will we not think that stuff's happening?
Oh, yeah. I think everybody would agree that that's a strong possibility, right? Everybody would probably say, well, prove it. There's a lot of things that we know happen that I can't, prove in this moment, this instant. But
Yeah.
if you have family in Mexico, you know that, there's a lot of corruption with cartels there. So if we can't come to an agreement that that is a strong possibility, then let's just agree to disagree. But
Yeah, I mean,
if
and
Yeah, no,
you
but if we
have
don't
family.
control the borders, we're allowing the cartels, to do business as usual. I don't know if I got cut off when I mentioned that, but
Yeah. And just kind of what you were saying, the cartels in Mexico do control their states. Each cartel, in a sense, controls their border, right? Their state is their border, and you can't have people the way they run it, right? You can't be in there like like doing whatever you want to do because they'll probably try to handle a situation, right? And that's the thing. It's like even without the proof this instant, you have family, I believe, or your family's from Michoacan, right? I have
mm,
family that's from Guerrero, and every now and then, I'll see the murder rates and the states in Mexico, and those two are always in the top five, and it's because of the cartels.
yeah,
And in my opinion, when we talk about the border and how it's wide open, I think my opinion is the only people that truly benefit. I don't even know if you want to call it benefit, but the only ones that gain out of that is the cartel, the coyotes or whoever that are now going to take advantage of all these people.
yeah, yeah, and accountability um, takes a big part of that. We have to think about accountability. So, and what I mean by accountability is those countries is
Mm-hmm.
Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, in what's going on in their country. Um,
Yeah.
there's something definitely wrong that they're making such a big push to come over. And what's weird is that, in the past 2 years, after Trump, the number of illegal immigrants have obviously been coming up, a lot more. And, it's common sense. It's because the border is weak. It's weaker. The policies are weaker. And that's the reason that they're coming over. There's a saying that's called, let me see, what is that chart?
Oh, this is
Oh,
the
age
so this is
0
the
to
one
12.
country of it'll show you the age and then the country of origin, kind of what you were saying is like
Oh yeah, look
holding
at
the
Honduras,
other countries accountable.
32% in 2021. Guatemala 47, El Salvador 13%, Mexico 1%, all other countries 7%. And that's another good point, is that the other countries doesn't necessarily mean it's Mexican people or even El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras.
Hmm.
It's how many other people from other countries are going through Mexico to come here,
Yeah.
is the other thing that you have to think about. And I just earlier today, I heard that the Al Qaeda threat is back up.
Mm,
And they're expecting them to have some sort of big event, in the near future.
mm,
So with a wide open border, I think it's a pretty good, likelihood that they would come through there if they were trying to come into the United States illegally.
yeah.
So we have to get rid of that guilt. I mean, to be honest with you, I felt the guilt. We're human. We don't want to see people suffer. We want people to have the same opportunities that we've been afforded. But at the same time, we have to check ourselves. We have to think logically. And now, we have to protect our kids, our families.
Yeah.
So we've got to keep things separate. Our emotions and common sense. Um, just security for our loved ones, and our loved ones are also Mexican Americans. They're also Mexicans, so Latinos, if you will. So we've got to learn how to separate both.
Yeah. And that's the thing that is very important, from my perspective, is a lot of, if you ask a lot of, or you kind of see a lot of young Mexican American people, that are born here, and they get really really offended, real triggered by the conversation about the border or the border wall, because they've been conditioned to think that it's that we don't want Mexicans here, or they hate Mexicans, or they hate Latinos, whatever, however you want to call it, right? But if you look at the data here, especially like looking at 2021, 1% of the people that of the unaccompanied minors that were coming were Mexican. And then you got 7% from other countries. So it's not just, yes, the southern border is right there, Mexico and America, but it's not necessarily specifically targeting Mexicans. It's just there's a lot more countries coming through here. And if we're just looking at this percentage of unaccompanied minors, which is age range 0 through 17, 17, you could say it's a young man.
Mm-hmm.
So 7% versus 1%. So you don't know where these other 7% are coming from, what intentions they have. So that's another thing that we have to be mindful of. Not just that be that prideful Mexican or Hispanic or whatever, but realize, okay, it's other things that are involved in the border. And I think people need to really realize that, and not just get so offended or so triggered by the by the by the border, right, and securing it. And then
Yeah.
here's just one more thing that I saw to kind of that talks about what we were talking about right now. Is check this out. So this is the Center for Immigration Studies. So it says here in 2022, numbers show Border Patrol apprehended a whopping 98 watch listed terrorists at the southern border, 6 times the record of 15 caught there in 2021. So it's not just Mexicans or Latinos that we're worried about there. America, is a very hated country as well. As much as people want to come to America for a better life, there are other people that hate this country. I mean, we've seen it through terrorist attacks already in our lifetime. But just think of that, in this last year, they caught 98 suspected terrorists trying to cross the border. So that is one reason we can't just leave it open, because as much as we may have that guilt, or someone may have that guilt because, they want more people to come, more people to have opportunity, we have to be smart about it in a sense. We have to pay attention to what is going on. That's why that vetting is so important.
Yeah. And it goes back to the rhetoric that, politicians and news networks use. I mean, they're hand in hand. They're virtually the same thing. So what's ironic about the whole situation is that all these politicians, they have guards at their homes. They have gates. They have walls. So, they're saying that we don't need them for our border. They don't need them for, our homes in the southern border. But they're being hypocritical by having them at their own homes, with the luxury of armed security, So it's one of those things where we can't fall into the trap of, the pretty words that they use and the manipulation that they use, to make us feel that guilt, because they're pulling at our heartstrings. So, we have to rise above that and realize the game that they're playing.
Yeah. And I think, what we're trying to do too is, show you data. The data we've shown so far are from government websites. So it's not like, oh, I'm not giving you things from Fox News or CNN. I'm giving you stuff directly from the government. So you can see when we say that, this is getting out of hand, it's proven with data from the government. So, it has gotten worse, and if we don't do anything, it'll continue to get worse. And each year, the amount of encounters, just to kind of share one more slide, is the amount of encounters with immigrants at the border has gone up immensely as well. So just kind of, if you look at the data here, so the Border Patrol in 2017 dealt with 526,901, immigrants or crossings or enforcement actions that they had to take. Typically, this means, a person that they had to deal with. So, if you look at last year, you're at 2.7 million. So, it's, what is that? 1, 2, 3. It's like 5 times bigger than it was 5 years ago. And, right here, it gives you year to date in 2023. I mean, I'm assuming they count this maybe starting December or something. I don't know what October. So, we're already past the number of 2017 in this year's count.
Yeah.
So, just again, it goes to show that it keeps getting out of hand. It keeps getting worse. But the problem is the politicians also that continuously promise that they're going to fix the issue, or not even promise, they kind of just encourage it too. That's something that when Biden was debating Trump and Kamala was debating, what's his name, Pence, one of the things that they were saying is they're basically telling immigrants, yeah, just come on over, like we'll take care of you. Which, again, if they're going to be saying that stuff, and then all these immigrants do end up coming, these people start coming up, but we're not taking care of the issue there, and we're sending money to Ukraine.
Mhm.
It's like, what's the point of you telling all these people to come here and encouraging that? It should be, as a politician, right? You're supposed to be upholding our laws. Well, they're the ones that make the laws as well, right? But the laws that are in place, they should be upholding them. And if there is something that they would like to change, well, when they get voted on and they go into Congress or the Senate or whatnot, they're supposed to be representing what the people want. And I think a problem with the politician, and I have said this before, is they're not doing what the people want. They're doing what their party wants. The priority is the
Yeah.
party now. You can see it on both sides. It's not so much of why the people put you in there anymore. It's okay. This is my party stance now, so this is what I got to do. This is where I'm at, and
Yeah.
and you see it all the time. They don't break away from their party lines, and that goes to show that if to me it's like you can't really trust them.
Yeah. Well, you can't, and that's the whole point. Is whatever they're telling us, you bet your butt, it's probably the opposite of what they're telling us, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes to show you that politicians and the news networks, we talked about how they've been sued for um, basically manipulating audio,
Defamation.
video, information,
Mm-hmm.
period, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the conversation that we've been having right now, I guarantee you that anybody could get this audio, this video, edit it, and make it sound like we are the most racist um, couple of guys that there
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
and racist against Latinos, to put it, to go over the top too, and that's the type of
Mm-hmm.
manipulation. So everything that you
Yeah.
see, you have to take with a grain of salt. You have to really, think about it, dissect it, and make your own decisions on
Yeah. That's something we said too. I think on the previous episodes, always do your own research. Don't just go with an out of context clip. Search for the clip. It's probably on YouTube. It's on Twitter. It's all over the place now. So
it. Yeah,
don't allow yourself to just be manipulated or tricked into thinking that things are a certain way when they're not. Watch the full clip, then make the
yeah,
decision. And if you end up coming up to that conclusion, well, it is what it is. At least you did your own, your own part to try to make sure to see if it was true, right? So, but that's something that is super important, and especially when it comes to the border, it's something that when you hear certain things, you got to look into it. You got to, okay, is this real? Did he really say that? Did he really say it this way? And you know, when Trump announced he was running and he did the whole the speech, the first one, the one that got taken out of context and played over and over and over and over. When you really listen to it, it's not what he said. But I think from that moment, with the news using that clip repeatedly, really did a good job in manipulating people into really hating Trump before they even really gave him a chance, if that makes sense.
yeah. But um, at that point, when that happened, my mind was already trained to ask for the full context. So everybody got really upset at that point, and they turned
Mm-hmm.
around and asked me, what I thought about the situation. And I didn't get upset. I simply asked, like, what was the context that it was said? Because all we were hearing is snippets, like literally seconds of
Mm-hmm.
a speech. And I knew better than to go off of, the snippet that, they were playing over and over and over. And then when you listen to the entire context of, what he said, then it made sense. And I was the wrong person to ask, because in my family, you have a little bit of everything. So obviously, my parents they came, and my aunts and uncles they came, and they worked really hard to get their visa. And there was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things that were involved with that. If you know someone that's gone through it already, you get vetted, like we said, to the point where they check and see if you have a criminal record, if you've been an asset, to the country, um, if you've contributed, if you paid, taxes, if you try to evade them, even though you're not here legally, they're looking for that. And, they proved that they were an asset to the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I have some other family members that are actually not here in the United States anymore because they weren't an asset, to the country.
Mm-hmm.
They came with some intentions of doing some illegal things, and they, ended up going back to Mexico because of that.
Yeah.
So I was the wrong person to ask because I can see the point that Trump was trying to make with that speech, and then he also mentioned, people they come and do great things here too. So, I know that side of it as well. So when I listened to the entire speech, then it I agreed with it. But you have to move aside the guilt. You have to move aside the feelings. You have to listen to the entire speech, or context of the snippets that they give us.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said, that's why it's super important to do your own investigation on it, because then if you, let's say for example, if you weren't in that kind of mind frame, like you were saying that you're already in the mind frame of questioning things, uh, you could have easily also just been like, well, I don't like this guy, and like I said, it worked, right? They accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. And the thing about the whole border situation and Trump and all that is, it's people were so manipulated by it that it moves more beyond Trump now. Another factor of manipulation, right, is making it so that, for example, the Republican Party, for example, they're now kind of in that ball of, oh, they're the racist, because when it comes to border policy, Republicans are more about border security, which kind of means watch the border. Whether you have more border agents or other kind of technology that kind of helps eliminate the illegal crossings, and it'll limit people putting themselves in danger to try to get here. They're more that way, right? The Democratic side is more of, you know, come over, we'll take care of you. Kind of no, what do you call it? Like no consequence, just come on over. Um, and what that whole thing with Trump did, it was like two levels of manipulation. Obviously, they made people hate him, but now it's beyond that because he's not even in office, and now it's people hate the Republican Party because, well, they're the quote unquote racist because they want border security. So like that that level of manipulation is something that, if you take a step back and just kind of question it a little, you'll see that, okay, yeah, this stuff that was told to me, that was presented to me by these politicians, by the news media, isn't 100% factual. And it shouldn't be a party thing. I don't think it should be more of, it's an issue where we're dealing with real people, right? Real lives, real suffering, that it shouldn't be so political, but it is. And and this is something that I have to do more research on, but if you want to make it about political or not, I think, who was it? Was it Reagan, who was a Republican, that gave a lot of they gave amnesty, right? Back when he was president.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I would have to look that up.
So this is something a lot of Latinos can relate to. So go to a supermarket, go to a Mexican supermarket, like like an old school Mexican supermarket, and they'll have a picture of Reagan hanging somewhere. Um, I've gone to a couple and they have it hanging there. And one of the reasons is that when Reagan was in office, that's when they allowed the amnesty to come into place. That's when my parents were able to get their visa. You know, that's when they gave them the opportunity for amnesty.
Yeah, and then again, like that goes to show you that in that sense, I mean, them passing that into law and giving people amnesty, and they got their visas and they're able to stay. That was probably in our in our lifetime or in recent history. That's the one thing that I can remember that really helped out immigrants that were here. A lot of people like to give Obama a lot of credit for DACA and the Dreamer thing that he did, but at the end of the day, that people got to realize there's a difference with the amnesty. I believe what was it, the Immigration Reform Act that Reagan did, because it was basically actual law being passed, versus what Obama did. What Obama did was an executive order. So with that, it's not a law. It's just something that any president that comes after Obama can easily, with no input of Congress or anything like that, just boom, it's gone. So it's a Band-Aid fix, but it sounds nice,
Yeah.
right? And that's the key difference. But the one that gets the most praise is the Obama thing with DACA.
Yeah, yeah, and it 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 really does come down to the difference in times and the way that they use propaganda. Um, if they say it enough times, they can make it seem as it never happened. So, we just have to, continue to pay attention to what's going on around us. And if it doesn't make sense, dive into it if you feel it down in your bones. And it's not fitting in with common sense, then you really have to question it. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Yeah, and then
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's
Your screen went black.
oh, okay. No, I'm here. I'm here. And that's something that I had mentioned it on the last episode, right? How Trump did ask for 25 billion for the wall in exchange for Dreamer citizenship, right? And this is just just to kind of share that. So this is from Reuters. Reuters is in no way conservative, but this is a story from January 24, 2018. This Trump seeks 25 billion for border wall, offers Dreamer citizenship. And you can, if you Google that, you'll have all these other articles pop up. But I just kind of wanted to share it so you know that I'm not just saying that it was an actual offer that was made by Trump that would solve the issue for a lot of Dreamers or DACA that, yeah, were brought here when they were little, no fault of their own. They lived here their whole life. This is the lifestyle they know, the country they know. And, the exchange for, but I think the exchange for the citizenship, for the Dreamers, for the wall, theoretically makes a lot of sense, right? To me, because the Dreamers, for example, are already here. So if they're already here, they live here their whole lives. I know people that are, Dreamers, quote unquote, or DACA, and they're good people. Again, it's not talking about immigration has nothing to do with the character of the person. It obviously, if they come here, kind of like what you were saying earlier, is they come here, they break laws, and then they get deported. Well, that person did something that there was consequences, right, to whatever action that person took. But like a lot of the dreamers, yeah, they DACA, they've been living here their whole life. And from my point of view, I would have said, yeah, take that deal. You secured the border. The DACA students, the kids here, they get covered. To me, it's a win-win for everybody. You know, I don't know how some people look at it, but I see it as a win-win. But I think that the thing too is that guilt that you were talking
Yes.
about,
Yep.
where that same guilt will make you not want to accept that deal because you're worried about the people that could possibly come or would want to come but don't. And again, it's kind of like you have that guilt for something that you may not even know might happen in the future. Obviously you can assume, yeah, we can all assume more people are going to want to come up throughout the years. But to me, when you have a deal like that, that deal should have been taken. You know, DACA dreamers wouldn't be an issue right now, and it'd be done with, right? That end. But it's not, because again, you go to politicians that promise, and promise that they were going to do something about it, and when the time came to do something about it, they let politics and their party
Get in the way.
lines dictate the future of everybody else. So that's like, if I'm a dreamer, if I'm DACA, of a DACA kid or whatever, you know, you have to realize that happened. And sometimes I think a lot of them don't even know that happened. I think there was a few, because there was a point where Nancy Pelosi was giving a speech, and I think it was after that where they kind of protested her little event, and then they gathered around her and they were calling her a liar or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That was awesome.
that whole situation makes no sense in not in not taking that deal. I'm still, you know, the more I talk about that deal, and then the more I think about what they're doing in Ukraine, it still blows my mind.
Yeah. No, I was looking up. Cesar Chavez is probably a great example of what we're talking about. So for a lot of people, and I want to do
Mm-hmm.
an episode talking about him because he, they hold him up as a great leader, which he was, but they misinterpret what his message was about. And if you look into it, he was against illegal immigration. And where
Mm-hmm.
we're from in San Jose, they have a statue of him downtown, and things like that. And I think if he was alive at this point in time right now, I mean, he was fighting for human rights, but at the same time, he was fighting for equality too. So he knew, being born in Yuma, Arizona, that, the illegal immigrants coming into the United States, would be taking a lot of the jobs that they would be taking at that point in time. And
Yeah.
that's not to say that he was against um, immigration, because I'm sure he was in favor of legal immigration. But what happens is that when there's
Yeah.
illegal immigration, there's abuse in labor. So they get these laborers
Mm-hmm.
that work for these wages that are really low. And, I think we see this all the time. People know people that go out in the fields and work for really cheap labor. So there's
Yeah.
a human crisis, when that happens. So that's why we can't let, our emotions get in the way. We have to,
Yeah.
look at the situation holistically and not get emotional about it. And I really do look forward into, doing an episode like that, about Cesar Chavez. But that's just one example of, someone that is an icon, a Latino icon. And we really don't
Mm-hmm.
know what his message was about, in detail. So it'd be interesting to
Mhm.
talk about it and, put it out there so that people realize exactly what he was about. He was for, human rights.
Yeah, and if you kind of go by today's logic, some of the stuff that border wise that he was doing with this group is you would he'd be he'd be called a racist and whatever the cool words are nowadays. But yeah, that'd be definitely a good topic to talk on, to speak of. And just other also Latino leaders that, like you were saying before, that to kind of just let people know where they're from, what they did, and how it impacts us now. um I think hopefully one day we're able to have some Latino leaders on this show, and hopefully it grows to that level, and kind of pick their brains and stuff like that. But you know right now what we can do is, like you said, go into the history of people like Cesar Chavez, and kind of talk about what he did, and what he was trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. There's so much more. It's a complex subject. Um, Everybody has a different vantage point. They've got experiences, whether it's good, bad. There's a lot of things that we don't know about that happen. Um, and one of the things that I was going to tell you is that I was you know, whether it's at work or, just being around other Latinos and stuff like that, is they're sharing like videos that are online of the crazy things that cartels are doing. Um,
mm-hmm.
so it's, I might take that back, as far as not being able to prove that the cartels are actually running, the state borders or the southern border, because
Mm-hmm.
you could go on your phone and you can look it up and you could see how, the violence and all the other things that they're doing in order to control the border and, the
Yeah.
state borders in Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, you could see it too, like when we all see those videos of the cartels getting in shootouts, even with the military down there. So, if they're not afraid of their own military, like they're, you know what I mean? Like, come on, they're not going to be afraid of people trying to cross the border, or even care about people trying to cross the border for a better life. They're going to take advantage of that situation, probably more than likely 100% of the time.
Oh yeah, 1,000%. Look at all the TV shows, all the movies glorifying that lifestyle. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think they're making it in those movies or in TV shows. They make it seem nicer than what it really is. It's brutal. It's cutthroat. I mean, I can't even
Yeah.
describe it
And,
how bad it is.
and that's and that's part of the manipulation, right? If we talk about, I think on I forget if it was the third episode, I think we talked about entertainment. Um, how they have the shows like with Narcos, right? How they show you the whole cartel life, and on TV it looks, oh, these guys are having a good time, or they even, to a sense, like make the drug dealer seem like he's a good guy, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But that's kind of they was it glorifying that lifestyle that isn't good at all, right? It's not going to benefit anybody in the long run, right? It might benefit you, like if you're in that lifestyle, it might benefit you in the short term, as far as you might make more money or whatever financially. But at the end of the day, it's a lifestyle that is filled with death and chaos.
Yeah.
So
Well,
even
think
if
about
you
it this
think,
way: how many
even
of
if you
those
think,
shows and movies have we seen where they ride off in the sunset, like like a happy
They
ending, a
don't.
happy story. I don't think it's ever happened. So,
No. No. They
but
all go into the light, so to speak.
yeah, the other thing that we have to do is,
But
right now that we're touching on that, as far as glorifying, the cartel lifestyle, is that we all know it's there. And when we're being told that it's racist to have it border wall, have it under control and everything, listen to the other part of your brain where it goes, it exists, it's there. And how can it be racist to eliminate that or control that chaos and violence? It just doesn't it doesn't match up. It doesn't make sense. We
no, and
How can you acknowledge one thing and deny the other?
right. And it's like, as a people, it's like we have to be honest with ourselves. We're not all angels, even kind of going back to what Trump was saying, right? Because he wasn't talking about everybody, even though that's exactly how they made it play out in their reporting of it. He was talking about specific people. And kind of what you were saying right now is it's like, yeah, we have to admit that those kind of specific people he was talking about are out there. They do exist, and it's not just because we're Latino, Mexican, Hispanic, whatever, and we heard that and we got offended. It's like, well, that other part of your brain knows that those people are also out there. And it's not just, it's not a race thing or whatever. It's just every culture has it. Every
Well,
culture
it's one of
has a
those
group
things
of
where
people that.
if you grew up in a Latino neighborhood, right? It's like you lock your door. You had a dog, to protect, the house, or if you had a legal firearm, you had a legal firearm to protect yourself.
Yeah.
So it,
My
it's just
my my
common sense.
grandpa had a shotgun ready to go. I remember
Yeah.
that as a kid.
So
But yeah, it's kind of what you're saying.
we can't deny it. We have to be realist. We have to be logical. Um, when we're making these decisions, and it just goes back to what we have been talking about for a few episodes. It's just manipulation. It's rhetoric. They're playing with us. We're a social experiment to them, by what they push through music, movies, all their propaganda. So we just have to be wise enough to spot it and not fall for it.
Mm-hmm. And I think going back to that guilt, I think that's why it makes us as a Latino community an easy target for that manipulation. Because someone that has guilt, you can easily, change their, what do you call it? Take advantage of their situation,
Mm-hmm.
because they already feel like maybe unworthy, or however you want to call it,
Insecure. Um,
insecure. Uh-huh.
yeah, I think guilt does a lot of things. It makes you give in to certain things that you wouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
otherwise. That's why certain things are
Yeah.
used. It makes you not to continue to harp on it, but um, it takes you away from making common sense decisions. It kind of it takes away that factor, and then you're just
Yeah.
reacting emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And you're not making an informed decision, like you were saying, right? And last time, it's like if uh if someone controls your emotions, they control your decisions. And this is
yeah,
exactly that.
and it 100%, 100%.
So,
But
I think
yeah,
I think go ahead.
oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. I think there's a I think there's like a little delay on both sides of things that is happening here. But
Oh, it's really windy over here, and the internet connection is. I'm looking at my connection. It's dipping, going up, and dipping. So it's probably on my side.
oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, I think the border in I guess in simple terms is it's not racist. Wanting to secure the border is not racist. And I think as a Latino, instead of just automatically getting so offended or riled up by it, look into we looked into some of these numbers. We found these numbers pretty quick, like I said, from the government websites. Look at those numbers and just kind of see you could see the progression, how it's getting worse. You could see the amount of unaccompanied minors just getting higher as well. The amount of encounters that the Border Patrol has with, people that are trying to cross. And another thing kind of remind me of something I wanted to say is the Border Patrol, a lot of them are Latinos. It's not like, I think people think of ICE and they just think about a bunch of white Border Patrol agents, but a lot of them are Latinos working at the border and doing what they can with the power that they have, or the responsibility that they have to take care of the border and deal with this influx of people. There's not enough. At one point or another, we've all had a job where we were shorthanded, right? And we knew, man, this is going to be impossible, or it was impossible to get done. Just think about the Border Patrol agents right now. When you're dealing with 2.7 million people crossing, and I don't even know how many Border Patrol agents we have at the southern border, but I'm gonna go on a limb and say it's not even close.
I would agree.
And there are just people just trying to do their job.
Yeah. Um, at my previous employer, it was based out of Texas. One of the corporate offices was in El Paso. So when you would go over there, you drive down the freeway, you see Mexico on one side, and then you see the United States on the other side. And some of those guys that were working over there, I was really surprised that they were leaving the company where we were working at to go work as Border Patrol agents. And these are guys named Juan with last names like Hernandez, Fernandez, and stuff like that. So in my mind, I was like almost brainwashed to think that Hispanics wouldn't be working as Border Patrol agents. But then that reality hit me, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah. You know, they're protecting, especially if they're from El Paso, they see all the things that happen, coming from Juarez over to El Paso and stuff like that. So it made me realize that, the point that you made, it's not just, John Doe's working out there, just
Mm-hmm.
or John Smith. It's Juan Hernandez and Fernandez out there working as Border Patrol agents.
Yeah, yeah, and again, they're not evil people. They're just, they have a job to do, and that's part of the rhetoric, right? Where those people have been given a bad rap just because of political gain,
Mm-hmm.
and if you know anyone that works the border, or if you get an opportunity to speak to someone that works at the border, especially if they're Latino, I'm pretty sure they're going to tell you that they don't do it because they hate Latinos. They do it because maybe it's a job, and they probably care more that they don't want to see these people suffering. And at the end of the day, in a sense, even though they're catching those people, they're probably helping as much as they possibly can to prevent those people from going through worse situations.
Well, that's what I was going to say. We could potentially say that they're saving someone.
Mm-hmm.
They're saving a child. whether it's a boy or girl, that they're trafficking. There's so many different things. It's like we have to get that out of our heads that we think that every single person that's crossing that border is coming out here like our mom and dad did, or mom and grandparent and grandmother out here looking for like a working opportunity to better themselves. That's
Yeah.
not always the case. And you know what statistic would be interesting is to see how what are the numbers of that, actual people coming out here and trying to get a job, like how we talked about, to
Mm-hmm.
to lead them over to, you know, getting a work permit, doing it the right way, getting an
Yeah.
attorney, doing it that way, because that's something that we don't think about. If we had that statistical number in front of us, we would be able to put, into perspective how much crime is actually going on the border.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I was trying to find right now while you were talking about that, how many, just to kind of get a number of how many border agents are at the southern border compared to the people that they have to encounter. I couldn't find anything, but I did find one where it says September. It's September 1975 to September 2005. So in 1975, at the southern border, they had 1,446 agents. Um, and then in 2005, they had 9,857. So, that's what, 10, 20, 30 years, 30 years, the amount of Border Patrol agents has also gone up, right? Because, they, at the end of the day, it's as much as maybe certain politicians or certain people don't want to, it's needed. And again, they're not all bad people. So I think that's another thing when it comes to talking about the border and having these conversations about the border is knowing that those people that work there, shouldn't be getting this bad rap that they've been getting. I think that's unfair, and every politician that kind of bashes on them should probably, they should cut that out, because it's it's honest working people that are, law abiding citizens and law upholding citizens. So I don't think, not just, Border Patrol, but police in general, it's a tough job, right? And with the rhetoric in recent years, they get a bad rap, and that should definitely be something that, regardless of political party, that shouldn't be done. Because we do need those people every day.
Well, think about it. If you're paying um, in that scope, in that brush, that they're these bad people, you're potentially putting their lives in danger. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and I think the best example that we have is that one photo op that they did where they caught the border patrol agent on the horse. It looked like he was gonna whip him, but he wasn't whipping him. And same thing, they came out with I think it was like a little apology
Mm-hmm.
in the back of the newspaper or something like that. But that picture, and the majority of everybody said is, that
Mm-hmm.
these border agents were whipping these
The
immigrants.
Haitians, I believe, right? It was the Haitians that had crossed the
Oh
border,
yeah.
and he was grabbing the reins of the for the horse, and just the angle that the picture was taken of. Again, you go there, you go, propaganda and manipulation is there, and it's crazy, like, to see. I guess once you really have your, how could I put it? Kind of like you were saying, right? That you think about things in a perspective where you're like, all right, well, what really happened, or what's the full context, right? it's crazy to see, because once you get to that point and you go and see or search the whole incident or whatnot, you see all that manipulation, you see all the rhetoric, you see the propaganda that they use. And the crazy thing is, like I said before, is it works,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
And if people aren't at that point where they know to look for things in context before they react to it, then it's going to continue to work. Uh, and
Yeah,
that's
they're
kind
kind
of,
of
in a
using.
sense, it's mind blowing.
Yeah, they're kind of using human nature. They're taking advantage of us, the human nature, because we are emotional beings,
Mm-hmm.
and we do care. So when they do that, is they're taking advantage of that straight up.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's a social experiment that they've already mastered. If we think that they're barely figuring this out, we're wrong. They've been doing it for a long time, and
Yeah.
they know exactly what they're doing. And there's a popular term that people are using right now is gaslighting. So, they gaslight us, and kind of like the way that it kind of left you speechless in the way of describing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what gaslighting does. It just like it numbs your mind, and it's like you get stuck, and,
Yeah.
and and you can't believe that it's happening and that it's working.
Yeah.
But like I said, they've been working on this uh, uh, manipulation and these social experiments for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and they're damn good at it. They're
Yeah.
damn good at it.
Yeah. And to kind of go back to it, it's that guilt that makes us the easy target.
Yeah,
But again, it's human nature, right? Where that's how we are.
yeah, yep. And it was a little while ago when in a conversation someone had asked me, it's like, but how can we justify being against people coming over like our parents and grandparents did? And I had to think about it for a while, and I was trying to find out what that feeling was, why we felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the best way that you can possibly describe it. It's just straight up guilt.
Mm-hmm.
It's.
Yeah, you start to think, well, why do I get this opportunity and someone else doesn't?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You think everybody, yeah, it's human nature, right? We're we're for the most part we're caring people, right? We want to see everybody succeed, and yeah, to if you put it in those terms, then yeah, you go, yeah, well everybody should come, right? And but that's not that's not reality though. That's not, what do you call it? It's not attainable, because as we said before, if yeah, that too, because any country that wants to be sovereign or wants to stay, America's, again, it's one of the greatest countries. If it wants to stay like that, it has to protect itself. It can't just let everybody run wild. And then not just the border, it seems like in everything, right, in everyday life, there things seem to be just people just seem to be running wild in everything. There's more crime, there's homelessness, drug use. Things are just getting worse and worse. And if we want to remain, a great country where everybody wants to be here, everybody wants that opportunity, that American dream, it's like we can't allow ourselves to just kind of be going more and more. We're digging a hole, and it's just getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And
Let's take it a
again,
step further.
mhm,
Is that like the example that we gave about Gavin Newsom? Is that he brags on how much money they spend on all these issues, right?
mhm,
So this is the crazy thing: is that where do they get that money? They get it from taxing us, right?
mhm,
So
mhm,
they've got a money tree that's called the American people, the American citizen,
yeah,
and that money tree gives them the money. They throw money at the problem, and the problem doesn't get fixed. And what do? They get more money from the money tree, the American citizens, and throw more money at it. So at what point do we say that isn't working? You're not going to take our money anymore to not solve the problems.
Yeah.
And when we force a change. When do we do that? When do we arrive to that conclusion? When do we arrive to that point?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? Because then again, like you're saying, he was bragging about the money he spent on this, and that, and things have gotten worse. I think that's kind of I think that's a key point in, we kind of had said it about the border, right? They keep promising and saying this, and this, but it's gotten worse. Gavin Newsom talks about all the money he spent in California to fix issues, but the issues keep getting worse. Spending money and wasting money are two different things, right? And it's obvious that they aren't spending the money in an efficient way where problems are being solved. There's no improvement. The quality of life has deteriorated like year after year. There's certain cities that I don't even want to be in, and that used to be beautiful cities, right? Like if you ask me right now, like, would you want to go to San Francisco? No.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Hell no. I don't want to be there.
It used to be like a getaway spot, a place you'd spend the weekend at and have fun with the family. Cruz. Same thing. Yeah. Santa Cruz.
Places that we grew up, when we were growing up, we would go to, like you said, to get away, have a good time, be with family. It's like, I can't go there anymore. It's real. Can you put it? It's just a sad situation. It's a very depressing environment just to see all those people.
Third world-ish.
Yeah.
Deteriorated.
And then you start to think of, like, back in the day, how beautiful it was. What a great Santa Cruz, the boardwalk. As a kid growing up, going there, like that was fun. That was amazing. That was awesome. It's like you go there now, it's just, the shopping center. Some of them look all abandoned. There's, homeless people everywhere. It's just the quality of life is just getting, worse and worse. And kind of like what we were saying last time is, well, why do we continue to allow it? Right. And when do we stop that? Right. When do we stop all that wasteful spending? Because it is our money, right? Even the omnibus, the federal stuff, that's also our money too. I think this is what I would love to see if we had like a real representation in the government. I would love to see them say, you know what, these bills, this money we want to spend isn't going to benefit our people that are giving us this money. It's not going to benefit them in any way. No, this is not getting passed. They will not get taxed. Because it comes to a point where all these things that they're taxing us and spending money on, it's like, what was that saying? It's no taxation without representation. Yeah. It's like, well, you're taxing me and you're spending money on things that don't represent me or things that I'm against. Like, why am I required to give you my tax money to spend on things that I don't want you to spend it on? I think that should be something that, hopefully one day that comes into where you'd be like, oh, we should have the, here, Danny, here you go. Here's the 4,000 page bill. Initial the ones you want to contribute to. We should have that. So then that way if I put my signature there, okay, use my tax money for that. Yeah. And if somebody does want to send all their money to Ukraine, sign your name away. I mean, that to me, that would be awesome, but I also know it's probably not going to happen. But, you know, I think that's how taxes should be. But that's a whole that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's almost like when you go to Walgreens and now the screen shows up. Do you want to donate $1 to whatever cause?
Yeah,
So
the children's
kind of
hospital.
something to the effect that you're talking about, something like that. So
Yeah, exactly.
I know, I know what you mean. But what are we coming up to right now? Like an hour 20, an
Now we're
hour
20.
or 20. All right. But with that being said, we'll keep touching on the Latino point of view on these topics. And like I said earlier, we should really, put something together for like Cesar Chavez and stuff like that to see, what his real message was and not what the propaganda,
Yeah.
messages that, they're trying to use his memory for,
Yeah, for sure. And then kind of what we were talking about today kind of got I know some people that live in SoCal that know border patrol agents. It'd be cool to probably have one on to
Oh yeah, that'd be
get
nice.
their point of view. That'd be kind of cool. But we'll see what happens there. But that would be something that I think would benefit a lot of people in not just hearing what we're saying, but someone that's there experience.
That's actually a really good idea. I like that.
So I'll work on that. But I think like you said, we're trying to give you the Latino perspective, kind of how what we see from our end, right? Being Latinos in America, growing here, all our lives, and kind of seeing being able to know when there's manipulation going on, to be able to, like you said earlier, ask for the full context. Like we're trying to get more and more people to that point. Not saying that we know it all, not saying that our way is the right way, but I think people need to do more research. And like I said, if you end up agreeing with it still, good, fantastic.
Yeah.
You did what you had to do to get to that conclusion. And basically, to put it short, we want you to reach your own conclusion. We don't want you to have your conclusion assigned to you.
I just got an idea. I think it's kind of funny. So, okay. So everybody knows a chismoso or a chismosa, right? So if a chismosa or a chismoso comes up to you and gives you a little bit of gossip, right? You're like, what is she talking about? What is he talking about? Let me go find out for myself, because she's known and he's known to be a chismoso or a chismosa. So you don't take their word, 100%. You're gonna go find out and see if it's real chisme or if it's the truth. So guess who's the chismosas and the chismosos? The politicians are chismosos and chismosas. News networks are chismosas and chismosos.
Yep.
So every time you hear something from them, you gotta go, I'm gonna go check and see if this chismoso is telling the truth or not.
Yeah.
So I think that's the best way that, I can put it. And if you can't relate to that, you don't know a chismoso or a chismosa. So,
Are you really Latino if you don't?
Yeah, I guess you wouldn't be.
But yeah, I don't. Man, that was a good one. I don't think I can follow that up. That was like the perfect ending.
So, the moral of the story is don't listen to chismosos or chismosas, aka politicians, news networks.
Yeah, for sure, 100%, 100%. Well, on that note, we'll end this one, but we'll be back and we'll be talking about these topics and just keeping it going. Again, appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to these, share these, spread the word if you can. Anything helps, and we appreciate it.
No. Hey, 2023. Can't believe we're in 2023. Let's make things happen. Let's wake up in 2023. Wake everybody up.
Yeah, I think we, I got some big plans for this year. I want to definitely, we're hoping to make a big impact. So, yeah, we're ready.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody. Well, you have a good one, and thanks for tuning in.